Cultural memory works the way human memory does. It keeps what gets repeated, quoted, remade, referenced, put on lists, and quietly deletes the rest. Quality has surprisingly little to do with it. A film can be reviewed as a masterpiece, and if nothing rehearses it, it fades all the same. This video is about 7 psychological thrillers that faded. Let's begin.
Did you talk to her?
We found her this morning.
What do you mean, found her?
Her body. We also found a hammer with 2 types of blood on it. One type, I assume, will match the bloke you put in hospital.
Following, 1998. Shortly before he made his first feature, burglars broke into Christopher Nolan's London flat, and his reaction was curiosity. What did they learn about him from handling his things? He turned that question into a 70-minute film, shot on Saturdays for around $6,000. Almost nobody has seen it. It follows an unemployed writer who trails strangers through London, telling himself he is gathering material. His first broken rule: never follow the same person twice. That person, a burglar named Cobb, catches him and offers an upgrade. Stop watching from the outside and start entering people's homes, where their possessions will tell you who they are. Freud named this appetite in 1905, Schaulust, the pleasure of looking. 10 years later, in Instincts and Their Vicissitudes, he added that drives reverse under pressure. Watching becomes being watched. That reversal is the entire architecture of following. The writer changes his haircut, buys a suit, starts dressing like Cobb, sliding from observing a life into wearing one. Then the structure closes. He was never the watcher. He was the material, shaped from the first frame into a suspect. Rear Window is the acknowledged masterpiece of watching. It is also the safer film. Hitchcock kept his voyeur behind glass, with a telephoto lens and an alibi. Following takes the glass away. The look walks into the street, acquires an appetite, and turns on its owner.
Get her out of here, man.
Please,
Where to?
because I love you. I did it because I love you. Don't you understand? I love you.
Where to, mister?
Move!
It's because I love you. Please.
Play Misty for Me, 1971. Dave, a late-night radio DJ, spots a woman at the end of the bar and plays a ridiculous court game with the bartender to bait her over. She comes. She was always going to come. Evelyn has been calling his show every night, requesting the same song, and she has tracked him to this bar. Both of them engineered the meeting, and the film never lets Dave forget it. It is Evelyn who sets the terms. One night, nothing serious. She writes the contract herself, agreeing to mean nothing is the only way in, and then cannot keep it. Dave believes it because that is convenient. When she turns up uninvited the next morning, he lets her stay another night. The film distributes the blame that carefully, and then the ladder begins. A scene at his business lunch, slashed wrists, a knife. Forensic psychiatry mapped this pattern decades later. In a 1999 study of 145 stalkers, Paul Mullen and his colleagues described the rejected type. For this stalker, the pursuit is how the relationship continues. Reconciliation and revenge serve the same purpose. Every escalation keeps the bond alive because the unbearable outcome is that it ends. That key reframes Jessica Walter's Golden Globe-nominated performance. The warmth is real. The rage is real. Both are the same refusal to be left. 16 years later, Fatal Attraction retold this story with a bigger budget and an ending reshot after test audiences demanded the stalker's execution. This one, Clint Eastwood's first film as a director, offers no such relief. Nobody in it is innocent enough to deserve one.
Everything's different. When the first healing's over, we'll start conditioning for muscle tone. Yes, those 2. Fingerprints. Mr. Wilson, even your signature.
Seconds, 1966. A middle-aged banker keeps getting phone calls from a friend who died. The calls steer him to an organization known only as the Company, which sells one product: your faked death and a second life. When Arthur Hamilton hesitates, the Company shows him staged footage of a crime he never committed. He signs. The surgery turns a tired man in his 50s into Rock Hudson, a painter with a Malibu beach house, a life furnished down to the woman waiting on the beach, a Company employee. The psychoanalyst Donald Winnicott described how lives like Arthur's get built. A false self forms through compliance. The person learns to answer the environment's expectations instead of their own spontaneous gesture. It works. It holds jobs, marriages, careers. What it cannot do is feel real. The company's cure reproduces the disease exactly. The dream was assigned. The painter's life is one more script authored by someone else. Rebirth as a second act of compliance in the costume of escape. Midway through, Tony visits his own widow as an old friend of the dead man and listens to her describe Arthur, a man who fought hardest for things he had been taught to want. He is attending his own autopsy. Only 2 spontaneous gestures follow. Drunk at a party, the buried man leaks through the new face. Back at the company, he asks to choose for himself this time. The system registers both as malfunctions, terminal ones. Booed at Cannes in 1966. Selected for the National Film Registry in 2015. The verdicts are half a century apart, and the film never changed. Vertigo showed a man remaking a woman into someone else and let us watch from the outside. Seconds performs the same operation and locks the camera inside the patient. The Tenant, 1976. The film begins with an act of quiet vulturism. A shy clerk named Trelkovsky wants a Paris apartment whose tenant, a young woman named Simone, threw herself from its window days earlier, and is not dead yet. He visits her in the hospital, posing as a friend, to estimate his chances of getting the flat. She lies wrapped in bandages and greets her visitors with a single monstrous scream. The only thing she ever says to him. She dies. He signs the lease. Then the building begins its work. No noise, no parties, no women. Neighbors complain about disturbances he cannot remember making. The cafe downstairs serves him Simone's hot chocolate instead of his coffee, Simone's Marlboros instead of his Gauloises. The concierge hands him Simone's mail and shuts the door on his protest. Every transaction returns him a little less himself, until the day he is wearing her dress. The psychiatrist R.D. Lying, in The Divided Self, described the condition this film runs on. Ontological insecurity, a self that never acquired firm ground, for which ordinary contact carries the threat Lying called engulfment. A secure person receives the wrong order and registers an error. Trelkovsky receives the wrong order and loses territory because his identity was never a possession, only a tenancy, a foreigner whose belonging exists on paper. He says it himself. In the film's most famous monologue, "Cut off my arm, and I say me and my arm. Cut off my head, and what has the right to call itself me?" Polanski, directing and starring himself, closed his apartment trilogy here, 8 years after Rosemary's Baby, a film that gave its tenant a verdict. The cult was real. The paranoia was perception. The tenant refuses the verdict, persecution or collapse, it never says. Because for a self without ground, there is no difference.
He likes you, Cy. Oh. He calls you Cy the photo guy.
I've watched him grow since he was this big.
That's right. You've been doing our pictures for a long time.
I almost feel like Uncle Cy.
1 Hour Photo, 2002. There is a wall in a quiet man's apartment covered with more than 600 photographs of one family. Birthdays, holidays, a boy growing up frame by frame. The family barely knows the man exists. His name is Cy. He runs the 1 hour photo counter at their local Sav Mart, and for 11 years, every time the Yorkins dropped off a roll, he printed one extra copy for himself. In his head, he has a place at their table. Uncle Cy. 2 University of Chicago researchers diagnosed this condition in 1956, half a century before the feed. Donald Horton and Richard Wohl called it parasocial interaction, and the phrase in their title says everything: intimacy at a distance. A relationship fully real on one side and non-existent on the other, conducted through a screen with someone who does not know you. They were writing about TV audiences and their hosts. The film strips away the celebrity. Cy's object is an ordinary family, his screen their own photo roll, and the film knows exactly what that role is. Cy says it himself. Nobody takes a picture of something they want to forget. A family's photographs are its highlight reel, which means Cy is not in love with the Yorkins. He is in love with their account. When another customer's role reveals the husband's affair, it lands on him the way reality always lands on a follower, as a betrayal of something that was never his. Taxi driver gave loneliness a gun and pointed it at the city that shut him out. 1 hour photo gives loneliness a photo counter, and it loves what shuts it out. Travis Bickle's disease belonged to his decade. Cy's was waiting for hours. Images, 1972. A children's author named Catherine works alone on a book about unicorns. The phone keeps ringing. A woman's voice tells her that her husband is with another woman. And then, in her bedroom, sits Renee, her former lover, entirely real. Her husband walks past him without a glance. Renee died in a plane crash 3 years ago. Minutes in, the film has stopped labeling what is real, because she cannot. That refusal is the whole method. Robert Altman shoots the dead lover with the same lens, the same Irish light, the same sound presence as the living. Cinema has a grammar for hallucination, soft focus, echo, a shift in color, and the film deletes all of it. A decade later, cognitive psychology would name the missing faculty: reality monitoring. Marcia Johnson and Carol Ray's term for the process that tags an experience as coming from the world or from the mind. Clinical research later applied the model to hallucination, something generated inside, mistagged as arriving from outside. A filing error, with a person trapped in the filing. The audience is denied exactly the tag the patient is denied, and the film's cruelest scene is the proof. Renee taunts Catherine to be rid of him, hands her a shotgun, and she fires. We watch him fall. What she has actually destroyed is her husband's camera. Reality arrives the way it arrives for her, late as a correction. Even the credits collude. Every character carries the first name of another actor in the cast. York won Best Actress at Cannes. Then Columbia barely released the film. Neither of the New York Times lead critics reviewed it, and it vanished for decades. A Beautiful Mind covered the same illness, won Best Picture, and did the one thing Images refuses to do. It sorts the real from the imagined for you, and calls that sorting a happy ending. Images hands you the shotgun instead.
I've been hiding out at Claire's. I've been hiding from you.
Hiding? What are you talking about?
I was afraid of you.
Dead Ringers, 1988. In July 1975, a handyman responding to complaints about a smell opened a locked apartment on Manhattan's Upper East Side and found 2 dead men with the same face. Cyril and Stuart Marcus were identical twins, prominent gynecologists, and, by the end, barbiturate addicts who had sealed themselves inside to withdraw together. The medical examiner estimated one brother died roughly 2 days before the other. The surviving twin spent his last days beside the body and did not leave. Esquire ran the story the following spring under a headline the movies would later borrow: Dead Ringers. Cronenberg's film gives the twins one soul and a division of labor. Elliot Mantle takes the podium and the seductions. Beverly takes the clinic, the research, and, when Elliot is finished with them, the women. One life, run across 2 bodies, until a patient named Claire does the one thing the system cannot absorb. She tells them apart. She wants Beverly, singular. The moment one twin has an experience the other cannot share, the arithmetic of their existence breaks. Psychoanalysis had described this structure decades earlier. In 1961, Edward Joseph and Jack Tabor named the twinning reaction, mutual identification so deep that self and other partially fuse, and the boundary between 2 egos dissolves. Through that finding, Elliot's fate stops looking like loyalty. When Beverly collapses into addiction, Elliot deliberately matches him, dose for dose. Inside a fused ego, there is no place to stand outside a brother's illness. Separation and self-destruction have become the same operation, and the film follows that equation to its end. Black Swan staged its double as hallucination. Nina's twin lives in mirrors, and the film files her under metaphor. Dead Ringers grants the double a body, a practice, and equal billing, then asks the harder clinical question: what happens to one self residing in two people? The Oscar went to the metaphor. The Forgotten film had the case history. Cultural memory keeps what gets rehearsed. That was the deal from the start, and it means forgetting has a cure with a simple mechanism. Every mention is a rehearsal. This video was 7 of them. If one of these films stayed with you, say its name somewhere. That is how a masterpiece gets carried back. Until next time, thank you for watching.